What's good, ladies? Welcome to Victoria's Little Secret Podcast, the podcast where women spill their stories they don't tell out loud, but send to me. From the chaos of motherhood to the adventures and disasters of single life, nothing's off limits. Funny, raw, and totally anonymous. These confessions remind us that none of us are alone in the madness. Shoo-wee! What's good, ladies? It's every lady's nightmare. Me, coming at you here in old Anderson, South Carolina, this Halloween. I just want to know, what are y'all up to this weekend? I plan on kicking back with my woman, drinking a couple Busch Lights, and enjoying my free time, 'cause I put in my work this weekend. Oh my God. Okay, so if you're watching on YouTube, you can obviously see that I have dressed up for Halloween, and I put a lot of effort into this look. I am a born bred redneck, so I'm pretty much a professional at spotting these. I've even dated a few. I look just like my daddy, and I know he's probably going to be very, very proud of me and my skills. On today's episode, we are going to celebrate Halloween, right? Because it's literally Friday. Taking the kids this weekend to go trick-or-treating on Friday. That should be fun, and hopefully it ain't freaking raining, right? Okay. This week update on my Vyvanse mental health journey. It has been really good. Sorry, my mic went out. I don't even know where I was, so hopefully I don't mess this shit up. All right. Halloween, Vyvanse. I'm feeling good. 10 out of 10. Can't complain on week 2 of taking Vyvanse. Mood's great. No anxiety. Heck yeah. Let's go. All right. So, what I want to do is read you some scary stories. I went on Reddit to find some of these most recent ones, so we're not listening to any ones that have been overused. If you're like me, who really enjoy scary stories. Hope you guys have a great Halloween and your kids are safe and you get to lean back with your woman as well and drink your Busch lattes. All right, jumping in. I told them you would come, based on a true story. I met him at the gym late evenings when it was almost empty. He'd always be here, headphones in, focused, lifting like the weight of the world sat on his shoulders. He smiled at me once while I was wiping down a treadmill, and that was it. We started talking. It was normal at first. Coffee after workouts, late night drives to grab a cheat meal, dinner dates that stretched past closing hours. He was funny and gentle and kind of a person who made you feel safe just by being near them. After a few weeks, he told me he had recently been diagnosed with schizophrenia. He said it carefully, like he was bracing for me to leave. But I didn't. I told him it didn't change how it felt. For a while, it didn't. Sometimes he'd glance behind me mid-conversation, eyes darting to the corners of the room. Or he'd stop mid-laugh, listening to something I couldn't hear. He told me about the voices, how they whispered things that weren't real, how he tried to ignore them. I nodded, told him I understood. I wanted to believe I could handle it. One night after a late workout, he asked me to come over. His apartment was dim, blinds drawn, and the hum of the refrigerator the only sound. He seemed nervous, pacing as if he was waiting for someone else to arrive. "They've been asking about you," he said suddenly. "Who?" I asked, forcing a laugh. He looked at me with a strange calmness. "Them, the ones you can't see yet." I froze. He smiled softly. "I told them you would come." The room was still. My ears rang. At first I thought the silence was too deep, but then I heard it, faint murmuring, just under the hum of the fridge, like a dozen people whispering at once, words overlapping, impossible to understand. I turned toward the sound, but there was nothing there. He tilted his head, almost lovingly, excited. "You hear them too." I left that night shaking, convinced myself that it was just suggestion, nerves, or imagination. But then the whispers didn't stop. I'd hear them faintly in my apartment, under the TV, in the shower, in the spaces between my thoughts. Sometimes they said my name. Sometimes they just breathed. When I closed my eyes, I'd see quick flashes of movement, like someone stepping just out of sight. He texted me a few days later. "They like you. They said you listen better than I do." I blocked his number. I tried to forget him, but the voices didn't go away. 3 months of torture continued. My daughter says stress can do strange things to the brain, that I probably absorbed his paranoia. But at night, when everything's quiet, I still hear them, the soft whispering, the breath against my ear, and sometimes when the lights flicker, I can almost hear his voice among theirs saying, "See, I told you she would come." It's been years since that night. The voices are gone, but the memory isn't. Maybe that's why I chose this path, to understand what we fear and to help others who live with those voices every day. I'm now studying clinical mental health counseling, learning to walk alongside those who wrestle with realities most of us can't see. Damn, son, where'd you find that? That was spooky. Never had any relationship with someone who had schizophrenia, so can't give you, any advice there. If anything, it'd be me that's got the schizophrenia, right? That was super creepy, super creepy. I feel like that's a good little introduction to this episode, because our next story, and possibly another one if we have time for it, these are pretty scary. I hope you guys are getting comfy or driving in your car listening to this episode and our scary stories, because it's going to get even more interesting. Okay, our next story. The patient in room 347. My name is Emily. I turned 19 in March. 2 months later, I was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, a rare form of bone cancer. Some people win the Powerball. I win cancer, with there are only 1,000 cases a year. Lucky me. My friends were finishing their freshman year of university. Meanwhile, I was bald, hooked to machines, and surrounded by white walls that hum. I couldn't do anything but sob to myself softly every night. Each night, I would hold my knees to my chest, crying. I would pray to God, please help me. I'm too young to die. I don't want to leave my friends and family. Eventually, I had to come to the realization I was wasting my time. If there is a God, he's been gone all along. The hospital was small, tucked in the outskirts of Omaha, Nebraska. Outside, the air smelled spoiled with chemicals and disinfectant. You could feel the weight of pain through the deafening silence. My parents rotated visits, trying to be cheerful, but they had the same eyes everyone here had, hollowed and somberly vacant, waiting for the inevitable horrible news. A few rooms down the hall, there was a boy named Nick, 20, same diagnosis. He wore a red Sox beanie and smiled too easily for someone that thin. He still had a light behind his hollowed eyes, dim but there. He radiated a sort of bittersweet warmth, as if he knew he was already dead, but he was holding it together for everyone else. We started talking during chemo sessions. We compared IV bruises while we swapped playlists. He joked about how he'd haunt me in the hospital if things went bad. He had a sarcastic and morbid sense of humor. Though despite this, with his bittersweet warmth, I could see in his eyes he was terrified. I've always had an ability of reading people's eyes. They truly were the windows to people's soul. My mother said I didn't need the ability to read minds. I could tell everything I needed to know from their eyes. I think Nick knew I was even more terrified. It wasn't exactly hard to tell he was trying to make me feel better, and he did. For a while, it helped more than I thought possible. For a while, I almost forgot I was dying. Almost. One afternoon, Nick looked exhausted, more so than usual, only this time not physically, but mentally as well. This wasn't like Nick. He always had a cheerful energy, even if faked. He said, "Do you ever feel like someone's in here with us when the lights are off?" I nervously laughed, and he did, but he didn't. His eyes darted to the far corner of the room where the curtain hung slightly open. He said he'd been seeing something, a tall shape, black from head to toe, sometimes standing beside the machines, sometimes crouched in the corners where the light didn't reach. Always still, always watching him. Maybe a nurse? I asked. Nick shook his head. No, it watches me. It doesn't breathe. I tried to tell him it was the meds, the fatigue, the fluorescent shadows playing tricks. But deep down, I'd seen enough weird reflections in dark corners to know how easily the mind could invent monsters. A pit grew in my stomach as I realized Nick was starting to succumb to these monsters. I've known him for months now, and I've never seen him acknowledge these demons, let alone face them. Now he was losing against them, and quickly. A week later, I went to Nick's room with a deck of cards. His bed was empty, sheets folded tightly and neatly. The IVs and machines were all gone. Burning and heavy tears built in my eyelids. I saw a nurse walking down the hallway in my direction and asked her what happened. She smiled gently, the kind of smile nurses give when they can't say the thing out loud. I could see in her eyes her heart was aching with visible sorrow. Don't worry, she said. Nick doesn't need the hospital anymore. Her tone was soft, affirmative, and final. I walked back to my room, my stomach in shambles. I felt like my chest was collapsing, as if it were a demolition site. I stared at the ceiling for hours, sobbing as quietly as I could until the lines blurred. That night, I dreamt of Nick standing in my doorway, his face pale, eyes sunken. Behind him, something or someone, impossibly tall, leaned into the frame, cloaked, its hand resting on his shoulder, with a smile slowly cracking and a hand reaching out towards me as if it were to join them. I started seeing him 2 days later. Initially, just flashes, a tall silhouette reflecting in the dark monitor screens or windows, occasionally standing at the end of the corridor post visiting hours. Each time I blinked, he was gone, until one day he wasn't. 7 to 9 feet tall, hunched yet regal, cloaked in black like a tear in reality. A scythe, curved and bone-colored, rested against his shoulder. He never moved, never spoke, just stared. I lay there, motionless, and waded to the bed as though my bones were concrete. I felt the most fear I've ever felt. I thought my heart would shoot directly to the other side of the room, though in all of my fear, I couldn't shake one thought. You have to be kidding me. If it weren't for the paralyzing terror, I would have laughed myself of deranged exhaustion. I'm seeing the goddamn Grim Reaper, I told my parents. They didn't see anyone. I told the nurses. They exchanged looks. One whispered a suggestion to the other. MRI. Maybe the cancer had spread into my brain. That hit me like a tow truck filled with soaking wet sand. The next time I saw him, he was closer, standing behind the IV pole as I slept. When I woke up, my monitor alarm was shrieking. My heart rate had spiked to nearly 170 BPM. That night, I sobbed until dawn. I was exhausted and aching beyond comprehension. The painkillers were the only thing keeping me just barely alive at this point. And now, even they were failing miserably. I went over to the side of the bed and vomited violently into the bin. One day, the figures started whispering, always the same words, "You're gonna die." Sometimes right beside my ear, sometimes echoing from the vents. Tell me something I don't already know, I would resentfully think to myself. I threw a water cup once, and it passed through him. The cup shattered against the wall. The figure didn't flinch. He just looked back at the wall, then turned to me, smiling that disgusted fucking smile. I was terrified by my intense hate-fueled spite for this thing outgrew any fear I had. Just kill me already, you goddamn creep. Stop fucking with me, I would scream. Sleep became impossible. Any few minutes I managed were filled with dreams of black corridors, hospital halls collapsing and rotting with rust, as well as Nick's voice echoing, begging me to run. But there was nowhere to go. You can't outrun something that waits inside your bones. I decided one night that if he came again, I wouldn't be paralyzed anymore. I would fight, even if it took my life. When the lights flickered and the air went cold, I didn't close my eyes. I didn't look away. I was ready. He appeared taller than I had ever seen him before, the scythe scraping the ceiling tiles as he stepped forward. I had to know. Why me? I shakily whispered. All of my poison-backed spite overcame my desolated grief. He tilted his head, almost curious. In the hollow beneath the hood, his smile spread. Eyes a deeper red than the blood of any living being. His voice rumbled within the room. I felt it vibrating through my bones. You are already mine. I lunged. The IV pole clattered. I grabbed the nearest syringe, one of the chemo injections waiting for my next session. I lunged it straight into his neck. He convulsed. The scythe crashed to the floor. His body split like the glass hit by lightning. Trapped in a firecracker, light leaking from every fracture. He looked at me one last time, smiling again. Then he crumbled into a dark dust-like substance, fading into the hospital air. I stumbled back against the bed, starting to sob, but it was different this time. I wasn't sobbing for pain or woe. For the first time in months, I felt in control. I felt every bit of tension loosen. I felt light and tranquil. For the first time in months, I truly fell asleep. When I opened my eyes, morning light poured through the blinds. Everything was blurry, but I felt peaceful. Better than that. I actually felt good. Not the type of good from the morphine. I felt how I remembered years ago. My parents were there, so were the nurses. The doctor smiled for the first time since meeting him. The treatment had worked. The cancer was gone. I didn't understand. My head buzzed, and I had a million thoughts, each going 1,000 miles per hour. But then the doctor opened the door, and Nick walked in. He looked healthy, actually healthy. He looked like the most alive I had ever seen him. His eyes were bright again and the most beautiful blue, as if staring directly into the Atlantic. Not the previously fading gray they had once been. We stared at each other for a second before we both broke down, hugging and laughing through tears. "I've been in remission," he said. "They told me you were as well this morning. I had to come see you." I laughed too, and it hurt, the kind of hurt that proves you're alive. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about the Reaper, about his awful smile when the light took him apart, about the way his shadow looked like smoke curling from a dying fire. Nick once told me, we were never fighting death. We were fighting what tried to take us before our time. I haven't got that out of my head since, but I like it. It makes the dark corners easier to look at, because sometimes when the silence grows too loud, or even when the lights in my room flicker, I don't feel afraid anymore. Well, that was a good one. That was a good feel-good one. That was The Patient in Room 347 on Reddit. We love that. I know that hospitals can be a very creepy place. I haven't really stayed in a hospital since I gave birth 8 years ago almost. I can imagine someone with chemo literally having to be there all the freaking time, or someone who's just like chronically ill, always there. I can imagine that is really uncomfortable, really spooky. You want to know something really funny? I'm checking the time. It took so long to become this beautiful, and I'm going to have to stop mid-recording to go pick up my child from school looking like a man, which y'all won't know because the podcast will still continue going after this. But hopefully he's going to die. I should probably record what his reaction is going to be, because what the heck? What the heck, Vic? Good morning, ladies. Let me talk about them gas prices with you. Do you have a dad? You have daddy issues? It's good, girl. Do you believe you belong in the kitchen? Yeah. Okay. Period. You're allowed in the kitchen, and also you can't vote. A lot of my friends know that I am obsessed with Pennywise the Clown from the movie and books It by Stephen King. I even have him tattooed in a cute little cartoonish version of Pennywise on my leg. So, of course, I tuned in to last week's new show that is Welcome to Derry. And first episode, wow, it was very good. It was definitely lots of jump scares and all around just kind of creepy. And then you fall in love with these kids or whatever. And the ending just is like, what? And now I have to wait a whole nother week on Sunday, this Sunday coming up, for the next episode. It's not like Netflix where they put everything out, in one sitting. But we prepared to watch it because my boyfriend, he's never seen any of the It movies. So we watched the new version of the first movie, and then we watched the show. And even if you have seen the movie 100 times, still I feel like you should watch it before you watch the show, just so you can have it super fresh on your mind when you start it. But yeah, that's Welcome to Derry. It's on HBO. Comes out every Sunday at 9 p.m. And dang, that was good. And literally, I mean, my boyfriend and I, we watch scary movies. That's what we do for fun. Like, we don't pick up on shows. We just watch movies. And we have watched some of the craziest daggone movies here recently. You're more likely to get a cheesy, scary movie than anything else, just because it is really hard to please someone who enjoys horror. But we don't have anybody dressing up as anything spooky for this Halloween. We just got a Fortnite player and two of my boys. They're hackers. They're wearing little face masks that kind of look like the Purge, and then just all black hoodie and pants. And they're like, phone hackers or whatever, computer hackers. It was their idea. I think it's super cool that they're both doing it together. But we are really definitely super excited for Halloween, and I'm supposed to dress like this with my boyfriend. He's going to dress up as a redneck as well, but we'll see. We'll see when Friday hits what the vibes are. If I feel like dressing up like a redneck man, see how I feel. Our next story is called "My Mother Used to Say That Houses Are Alive. She Wasn't Wrong." Let's see. All right, this is a long one, so buckle up, buttercup. I moved back into my mom's house 2 months ago. It wasn't part of the plan. The plan was to rent somewhere small, get my bearings again after she died, and maybe try to rebuild the pieces of my life that fell apart with her. But when I went to collect her things, I couldn't leave. There was something about the house, something that felt like unfinished business. It's the same old 2-story I grew up in. White siding, creaky porch, the faint smell of dust and lavender. My mother loved that smell. She said it calmed the house down. Even as kids, though, I never felt calm there. I used to tell her the walls made noises when I was alone, little groans, sighs, and I kind of hum when I cried. She laughed and said, "Old houses settle, Clara. They creak because they're alive in their own way." I thought she meant it metaphorically. I don't anymore. The first few nights back were normal enough. Lonely, yeah, too quiet. I couldn't sleep in my old bedroom. It still had those faint outlines on the wall from where I'd taped up posters like Ghost of Teenage Years I'd Rather Forget. So I took my mother's room instead. Her perfume lingered on the curtains, and the bed still dipped on her side, as if she'd only just gotten up. I started cleaning during the day, sorting through her things, trying to make the place feel like mine. That's when it started. Small things. Things I told myself were coincidence. One afternoon, I caught myself thinking this dresser would look better by the window. The next morning, it was. I laughed it off, assuming I moved it and forgotten. But then it happened again. I was reaching for the hallway light switch, but the switch wasn't there. Instead, it was on the other wall, right where my hand had hesitated a moment before. My stomach dropped, like missing a step on the stairs. I told myself I was misremembering. Boom! I told myself I was misremembering that grief makes people fuzzy. That night, I walked through the house taking pictures of the layout of where everything was, so I could prove to myself it wasn't moving. The next day, the photos didn't match. It wasn't dramatic, not at first. Doors an inch off, stair count 1 higher, the kitchen window slightly taller. I thought maybe I was going insane. I even scheduled an appointment with a therapist, but then the house started helping me. When I'd think about coffee, I'd find the mug already waiting on the counter. When I'd feel cold, the heat would hum to life without me touching the thermostat. One night, I couldn't find my phone. I whispered, "Where did I leave it?" And the bedroom light flickered, like a nod. I found it, glowing on the nightstand. It felt like the house cared. It was subtle, intimate, almost maternal, like it wanted to take care of me the way she used to. I told myself that was comforting, but comfort doesn't last here. The first time I got angry, I felt it breathe. I was trying to open a jammed drawer, my mother's old jewelry box, the one with the music that never worked, and it wouldn't budge. I yanked harder, muttering under my breath, "For God's sake, open!" Every door in the house slammed at once. The windows rattled. The air pressure changed like before a storm. And then it was still. When I felt sad, the lights dimmed. When I panicked, the hallway stretched. I swear to you, it elongated, the end of it sliding further away as I ran. When I calmed down, it shrank again. I told myself it was grief, stress, and trauma, all the buzzwords therapists love to use. But then I started noticing something worse. The house wasn't reacting to me anymore. It was anticipating. I'd reach for the faucet, it would turn before my fingers touched it. I'd think about checking the mail and hear the front door unlatch on its own. I'd dream about my mother and wake up to find her perfume thick in the air, as if she'd been standing right over me. The final straw was the basement. I've always hated that basement. As a kid, I refused to go down there. My mother kept the door locked most of the time anyway. She said it was for storage, though I don't even remember her storing anything. Last week, I was sitting in the living room when I heard something moving beneath the floorboards. Slow, deliberate, like someone dragging furniture. I froze. Then I heard a whisper, "Come see what I've made for you." It was my mother's voice. I wanted to run, but the hallway had already shifted. The front door was gone. Only one door remained open. The basement. I don't remember walking down the stairs. I just remember the smell, wet earth, lavender, and something metallic underneath. The basement was larger than it should have been. The floor sloped downward, the walls bending in impossible curves. The wallpaper from upstairs bled into concrete, as though the house was growing downward. At the center was a new door, one I'd never seen. It was painted white, but wet, like the paint hadn't dried. I touched it, and the door breathed. The wood expanded against my palm, warm and pulsing. I stepped back, trembling. The whisper came again, closer this time. "You've been thinking so loudly, Clara. We only wanted to help." I screamed and ran back upstairs, but they wouldn't end. The steps kept repeating, looping like an optical illusion. The house was folding in on itself, reconverging. Every thought I had became a direction. Don't close in, the ceiling lowered. Don't lock me in, the door vanished. Stop, 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 the walls pulsed harder, almost shuddering. I blacked out. When I woke, I was in bed, morning light filtering through the curtains, everything normal again, the furniture in its place. For a while, I convinced myself it had been a nightmare, until I saw the note on my dresser, my mother's handwriting. Don't leave again. The house gets lonely. The note was written on wallpaper that matched the basement. I've tried leaving. I have tried. Every time I pack my bag, something goes wrong. The tire deflates. The front door locks itself. My phone refuses to dial anyone but Mom. And she answers. Sometimes I hear her humming through the vent at night, the same lullaby she sang when I was small. Sometimes I smell that lavender perfume, and the walls ripple softly as if pleased. I think the house is keeping me safe. No, I think it's keeping me. Because last night, I dreamt of that white door again. I could hear breathing on the other side, slow, steady, in sync with mine. When I woke up, there was a new door in the hallway. This one red, wet, and waiting. I think it wants to make me a part of it. Maybe that's what happened to her. Maybe that's why the house always felt alive. If anyone reading this knows anything about old homes, foundations that shift, blueprints that don't stay consistent, please tell me if this is possible. Tell me there's a reason, because I looked up property records. This house has stood here since 1913. It's been sold 16 times, every owner listed as deceased on property. But there's one detail that makes my skin crawl. Each record lists a different floor plan, and the most recent one, the one dated this year, has a new room added, a bedroom with my name on it. That just gave me the frickin' creeps. Wow, needless to say, that really gave me the heebie-jeebies, especially as someone who loves scary stuff about houses. I don't know, that kind of freaked me out. Or maybe it's just me reading it makes me freaked out. I ain't never done this before. This is my first rodeo reading scary stories now. And these stories that I found on Reddit, they don't say if they're real or fake. Does that stuff really happen to people? Like I said in my last episode, I've never had a crazy, spooky, scary moment, and I don't want one. I don't want one at all, because I'm chicken shit. I like watching scary movies because that's controlled fear, right? Or haunted houses, like when you go into the haunted trails and things where people scare you. That's controlled scared, okay? I know them motherfuckers ain't gonna touch me, but for them to be able to just real life? No thanks. No thanks. You can keep that, Jesus. Thank you. Do y'all have any scary stories? Send them in. Even though it's going to be literally Halloween Friday, I don't care. Send me your scary stories if that's something you want to send me a story time on, because I want to know. Okay, so let's wrap this episode up. That was really fun. I guess I'll give you a life update. If you've made it this far, now we're going on into my life update. I already touched on my Vyvanse journey. It really has been super easy. I'm only on 30 milligrams, and I'm hoping that I won't have to go up, but we'll see. I'm on week 2. I'm staying very productive, and my task management has gotten better. I'm not sitting here focusing on just one thing for hours like I was last week. It's a little more thoughtful and planned out. I feel very happy, and I just looked at myself on my computer, and I'm like, I cannot believe I'm... I cannot believe I look like this. I really suggest going on my socials to see what I look like if you're coming for just podcast episodes and not from TikTok or Instagram, because she sure is a looker. And yes, I had to stop this podcast to go pick up my son, and I looked just like this when I pulled up. Luckily, it was raining, so none of the teachers saw me. But I mean, even if they did, they know me and my mom. We're just goofy people. But he was cracking up, and I'll have a video posted too of that, because his little reaction was cute. He was like, "Why do you look like that?" He's a good sport. So this year, while I talk about my physical health, looking like a man, this year, I have naturally just been wanting to focus. I've gotten my mental health, so much better, leaps and leaps. And that's still, I'll adjust that. But it's way better already. Now I can feel myself trying to gravitate towards the physical health, which is working out more, which I've already started doing that. My boyfriend's a big gym person, so I've been going to the gym with him, and then hopefully starting to do that, some kind of workout, whether it's my Pilates or whatever during the week, and then on the weekends when we don't have the kids, we go in and work out together because I just don't like going to the gym by myself. And if I have to hold myself accountable to just go and work out, I'm not going to fucking do it. I'm just not. So working out more, being more active, saving money, and then I have some exciting things that I really am looking into, which is I think I'm gonna get braces. I know. What is a fucking 34-year-old? Wait, am I 34? Yes, 33. I'll be 34 next month. Almost 34-year-old getting freaking braces. My bite's weird, and I want to fucking get straighter teeth. I got them when I was younger and never wore my retainer. They're crooked and they're chipping. So getting fucking braces. Maybe. We'll see what the dentist says. Orthodontist. And then next, I have to have a freaking revision on my nose. I had a nose job back in 2014. And I didn't know what I was 21. I didn't know what I was doing and looking for. I just picked the closest plastic surgeon in Anderson, South Carolina, and it came up with this person and his practice in Greenville. And now, years later, 11 years, almost 12 years later, the graft that he had in my nose is literally falling out. A piece of it fell out about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And when I pick my nose, which, come on, be real, we all pick our nose. But when I pick my nose, I can literally feel the graft, something hard that's not a booger or a bone, in my nose. And it's caused swelling, and my nose looks crooked. It looks like it's drooping again. Yada, yada, yada. It's not terrible visually, but it is very uncomfortable. So I am looking into getting a revision rhinoplasty, but I got a lot to say before I do that. And also might be going overseas with that because America prices are insane. So if you have ever had any type of surgery, especially rhinoplasty, or especially a revision, if you've had a revision, God, please let me know. But America is charging $20,000 to $30,000 for a revision, and that doesn't include your flight and your week stay. So I'm just finding better options overseas. And kind of sucks that I have to go overseas to do that. But there's some people out there that just have a specialty. And I learned from plastic surgery that just because they can give your best friend good titties doesn't mean they can give you a good nose. And your face is so important. Your nose is the main thing people obviously look at. And I'm going to work on try to get that done. I cannot wait to document that because that will be interesting, especially if I go overseas to get this crap done. And run of the mill, the usual. I'm gonna get some Botox. I hadn't done that in a while. Maybe start getting some facials done. I have no idea. I've just been neglecting myself, neglecting the insecurities that I do have. But if I can do anything to help my mental state going forward, and honestly too, with all this, the surgery possibly going to happen, that's gonna make me stop vaping. So hey, if I can stop vaping by preparing to get a fucking nose job, sign me up. That's what we're going to do. So I'm like literally in the middle of researching doctors all over, but mainly in Turkey. And I know people are like, oh my gosh, she's getting a nose job in Turkey. That's crazy. But there are some really good doctors out there, some really good surgeons. So I want to do more research than I already have, hyper focused on that right now. See about that. And then, yeah, you might see my old ass with some fucking braces. Okay? No shade. No hate. Talk crap all you want. Bitch gonna be looking good. Really excited for this year. I'm just gonna focus on my physical health, and which also includes me having every appointment you can imagine, just like obviously I've been to the dentist and the freaking psychiatrist and whatever else other appointment. OB, I got a new OB. Just focusing on getting myself back healthy again and fix some insecurities that I have, which are my teeth and my nose. So it's going to be an exciting year. Exciting year. I really appreciate you guys listening, especially if you made it this far. This has been kind of a harder episode to record because of camera issues and whatnot. So hopefully it all translates pretty well. I really don't want to dress up as a man again to record this. So if you would like, send me your stories. You can email me at Vics, VICS .storytime@gmail.com. This episode, I've changed everything back on my Instagram. I'm sorry, I know. You can find me at Vic's Hair, I can even show you on the camera, but VIXX_hair. That on Instagram, and Victoria's Little Secrets on TikTok, where I'll be posting some funny vids of this look. 'Cause damn, baby, you better lock 'em up. Lock 'em up. That's private property. Lock 'em up. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. I love you guys so much. Thank you for listening to the story. Please rate, subscribe, review us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast viewing from. Please DM me. You can even send words of encouragement because I love to hear that you guys love the show. I know you guys are. I can see, how many people have been downloading it, and it makes me so happy that you guys are willing to listen and deal with my scatterbrain. I hope you guys have a great Halloween, and I hope you stay safe and that you eat lots of friggin' candy this weekend. Thanks for joining in. Love you guys. Bye.